Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, so we get the jobless claims report and all sorts of other crazy. I gotta tell you what, I'm tired. So let's go to the charts, shall we? And see what happened. All right, yesterday, man, was such a day. Hold on, I forgot to turn my data on, so my charts are all still kind of loading up here. All right, so yesterday, things. Well, okay, so we gotta remember Wednesday. So Wednesday in the overnight was pretty ugly. And then we had a recovery in the morning. So this is kind of what we traded. And remember when we left off on stream, I had a big winner. And it was almost 1,000. Actually, if I had held it through all of this, it would have been 1,000. But I got out. I bailed, puked over here, and then I started scalping it. And actually, yesterday was like my best scalping ever. I was like, never felt better about it. Of course, I think there's a lot of luck involved, but it was really great. I was really happy with it. So then the Fed meetings minutes came out, and some of the members were talking about taper. And the market is concerned about a taper because there's a lot of paper out there, and they're using the reverse repo facility a lot. So there's kind of some concern that because of that, they're going to have to start talking about a taper because there's just too much paper out there. So that was what all this noise was. But in the end, they ended up. So the market is there's disagreement essentially about what this means and where it is. Note that the NQ through all of this, the ES and the NQ were kind of equal, flat with each other, but the NQ was seeing some strength on this. On the decline, the NQ actually wasn't quite as bad. But the RTY, the small caps got just crushed, right? So over here in the treasuries, though, okay, much more clear. The treasuries are really pushed down off of those comments. So I would I'm leaning towards following the treasuries. It seems that this is not like the end of the world, but that it probably will tighten the money supply. Okay. Coming over to here. Oh, it's time to roll over. Yeah. So oil still struggling here. There was some supply headlines that came out that kind of improved things, but they're still talking about the Iran deal. Sounds like they will have a deal by next week, and oil is going down as a result. Gold and silver. So gold took a hit at first, but then in the end ended up higher yesterday. Same with silver, although silver didn't quite, So when silver comes back, it comes back a little bit more, which is kind of frustrating. But hey, it's okay. It's copper. So there's a lot of talk in China about how they're going to curb spending. They're like saying, unusual trades and all this sort of stuff. Like they're all about the market is not going to push the price of copper higher than it needs to go. So for now, copper backing off. And then lastly, we've got here the dollar, which is just crazy. So we had this huge move up when they came in and said that when those Fed meeting minutes were released, but we've since retraced most of it. Okay. Meanwhile, over in Bitcoin world, we can see, huge ugly dip. They are on the upswing. They got back to 40K. You know, there was a little bit of this, but now they're up. They're definitely trying to create some bullish formations. And I think that there's a pretty good chance that the Bitcoin is going to make a solid recovery. If they make it to new all-time highs, it would be extremely unusual from my metrics. But maybe it's going to happen. I mean, like, I kind of got an inkling. Like, the thing is, here's why I kind of got an inkling that it might not be over. Man, sorry, my contact here is not sitting right, and I gotta fix my DOM. I don't know what's going on over here in the 10-year. Let's just like reload it like this and see if that helps. There we go. There we go. So last time around, when there was like a big decline, like a 50% decline, it happened like 3 or 4 times. So like everybody has to have this experience of it goes down, it's really scary, you bail out, and then it goes right back up. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what I'm thinking. And so the fact that this is like really the first one in this cycle kind of makes me think that they may not be done, and they're probably not willing to give up. But from my metrics, we are seeing like a real collapse, and that we are prone to a real collapse in the cryptocurrency market. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes, but I think that at the very least, they're going to try and make the big recovery above 50K. And maybe at that point, that might be too much, and they may falter there at that point. But otherwise, you know, I'm going to reload Jigsaw. It's not that I need to restart it, but it didn't. Because I didn't have the data turned on when they loaded up, they didn't load up all of the data that I wanted. So I'm just going to restart it here. Yes. Hey, so you were messaging me earlier, huh? Have you used Jigsaw's tape? They have this setting that allows you to configure background coloring where it tells you order above ask or below bid. Oh, yeah. This is weird stuff. Okay, hold on. Are you there? Are you paying attention, guys? It's a little quiet here this morning. Oh, there's Win. Hey, how are you? Are the robots? Oh, yeah, let's turn on the robots. We'll turn them on. Come on. Fine. Oh, okay. Maybe. Oh, that's better. That's a little better. I was like, I didn't like that it wasn't loading what prices had been touched for that day. So now I can see that. And there's the news. Silly me. I can hear you guys now. Okay, here. Hold on a second. 440K versus 450K. What about the Philly Fed? What about the Philly? What about the Philly? 31? Ooh. Okay, 31 versus previous of 50. And so that's not good. That's why they sold. That's why they sold. So I have to look this up. Here's their tape, right? You're asking me a question about the tape. So here's the thing, Gus, with that above ask, below ask thing. You notice that I have the colors set and turned on and everything. Oh man, that trade was fast and worked out beautifully. Oh, that feels so good. Okay. Anyways, so you notice I have it on right here, right? Above ask, foreground, background. Oh, actually, maybe I don't have the background set. Maybe let's set the background like that. Let's do that. Blue bid. Make them like white or something like that. Right. And then maybe you have to turn it on. You can change this. You can do like the uptick, downtick, high, reverse, low stuff. So here's the thing. Are you ready? Because I'm gonna explain something really complicated. Well, it's not the most complicated thing in the world, but especially if you're new, this is gonna seem really complicated. Okay. All right. So you've got your DOM here, right? So let's say you've got 08. Okay. So we got 1,000 here. We got 1,000 here. And we got 1,000 here. Okay. All right. And a buy order comes in and buys 1,200 contracts, right? So what is going to happen? There's like in a sequence of events, there is your order is going to get, if everything worked properly, okay, you would see a buy order of 1,000, and this is the matches tape. And then over here in level 2, we're going to see minus 1,000 from the offer, right? So there's going to be a market order, and then the level 2 is going to say remove 1,000 from there, right? And then if we got 1,000 over here, then it's going to say, okay, and then 200 of that, because the note that the way that they show the matches is they show the limit orders that got filled and not necessarily the market orders. So these could all be part of the same block order, but they these could all be a part of the same block order, but the way that it returns the data to you is it shows you the limit orders, right? So actually, if there was 500 different orders inside of this 1,000, like 500 different people to make this, you actually wouldn't see it as 1,000. You would see it as 50, 10, 20, all of that stuff comes in at once. Okay. And then we would see 1,000 pulled off, right? And then we would see 200 go into this, and we would see, minus 200 from here, right? Okay, so the way that the constructed tape works, and the thing that's special about it and is kind of hard to do, because you think, it sends in market orders and it just shows it. No, what they have to do is they have to say, okay, how many of these orders came through before I saw a change in the level, before I saw it reflected in the level 2, and then that's all one big order, and that's how it reconstructs. That's why it's a reconstructed tape. Okay. Well, here's what can happen is your level 2 feed and your matches feed are like two separate data feeds. Okay. So they can be out of sync, especially if it's like a really fast market. And so you could get a situation where you see this 200 come in before the level 2 has said, remove the 1,000 and remove the 200. Okay, because when we're talking about things that's like difference of milliseconds, then it can come in above that. And so Jigsaw has that option in there to color it differently if that is happening. Okay. So when you use the coloring, what it really means is that the market is moving fast, but it will often happen when there's like stop orders. So I think that that's why people kind of like to use it. But you can see that for me, well, on my rhythmic feed, it never happens. It used to happen to me on CQG all the time, or well, I don't know, maybe it was when I was earlier. It used to happen to me all the time in another life, but now I never see it. I never see that coloring. So you can choose so then there's these things where you can choose to like, oh, okay, so I actually did get one. I did get one to show just right there. Okay. It doesn't happen to me very often though. Okay. But it really just means that the feeds could maybe be a little off sync. Right. If you had market by order data, then that sort of a thing doesn't matter because you can basically match up every order to every level 2 change because the level 2 changes come in by order and not just for the whole price level. And yeah. So yeah. The coloring can be useful, but really what it means is the market is moving, right? So wouldn't worry about it too much. There you go. Yeah. And see, now that you understand how the reconstructed tape works, kind of that you'll know as you go along, you'll kind of realize it has a lot of significance in a lot of different places. So it's kind of interesting. Like there's all of this analysis that happens that you can only do with comparing what happens with the best bid and ask. Like when you're doing cumulative delta, how does it do it? It has the best bid and ask. The matches feed come in and they say there was an order that took place at 07.5. There was a limit order that was filled at 07.5. And then it comes in and it says, oh, okay, well, the best offer is 07.5. So that must mean that was a market order that came in. And then that's how they categorize the orders for cumulative delta, right? And then we say market orders are the aggressive orders. They tend to be the informed traders. So if we get a big rush of market orders and come in and move the market up, then that has a higher chance of being informed trading. Ergo, robots might pull. Makes sense? What's your opinion about market profile? Any reason why you don't use it? So, well, I do. I mean, so first of all, I have the profiles here on my DOM, right? I do pay attention to it, right? Remember, I say this, I don't really explain why, and I'm not going to tell you everything about it, but this pattern right here is more important, okay? Everybody's always looking for this even distribution, but when it first forms, it'll be a hump like this, right? Here's the buyers. Here's the sellers. People that already wanted to transact, which aren't that many, already did so at 07. So price kind of gets stuck. Okay. So that's the big thing about the profile. That's why profiles form. Okay. So they get stuck there. There's a lack of, you see that? Did you see how there was like a 4K and as soon as they tick down at 07.5, all of the orders at 07 disappeared? So I don't really actually want to transact at that price, right? Like I bet you 07 ends up trading a lot. Unless we get like a big trend up, I'm going to bet you that 07 trades a lot and ends up being like the point of control. But it's not because a lot of people want to transact there. It's because it's there. They're stuck. They have to, right? So this is the big fallacy that I think a lot of people that interpret market profile make is they'll look at it and they'll say, oh, okay, a lot traded here. That means that there was agreement on price. And then we're going to mark that as balance. And then there's going to be range extension above and range. It's not, it's a little bit more nuanced than that, right? So then I come over here to the charts And when I start out every day, you'll see I come in and I look at this volume profile stuff, right? So especially in the ES, I'm going to watch this. Now, here's the thing, is a lot of these profiles will tell you things that you already know. They'll tell you things that you already know. Like, yeah, the most of the volume yesterday was down in here. Well, of course, because that's just happened to be where we were at in the beginning of the regular session. So I guess in this particular instance, you can say, well, it's a fairly uneven profile because there was a lot of contention in the tape. But if you were watching yesterday, you should already know that, right? Same over here, Oh, look, there's a profile right where most of the trading happened in the early morning. But then there was kind of this big move down, and then there's always going to be a spike where the close was, right? So I guess you can call this a double distribution, but was it really a double distribution? No, it was that this is where they traded, and then there was a big close down at the bottom, and then so of course in the overnight they just kept going, right? I don't know. So then what will happen is you'll see people will go and they'll try and game out these probabilities, right? So I think that's where the profile gets interesting, is they'll say things like, if the previous day's point of control was here, what is the probability that we will touch that price again today? And I believe if you go and do the stats that probability is somewhat high. It's been a while. I might have to fix some things up because when I was relying on an indicator that I have to rebuild. But my recollection is last time I tested this that the point of control is likely to be touched. So one of the scenarios you're going to select futures trader 71. He does this stuff, right? He's going to come and say one of the scenarios. Hold on, give myself some space here, right? He's going to say one scenario is that they have an initial push down to the previous day's point of control and then a push up and it go like this, right? He'll do those sorts of things. And I actually find when you go through his different scenarios that oftentimes it's very accurate. Oftentimes he gets like the prices where it's going to go to and everything almost spot on. I think that there's a lot to stats on that maybe he doesn't share with everybody, so I don't know exactly how he does that. But the issue that you get with that sort of a thing is that when you have a probability, so let's do a more simple one, okay? There is like an 80% chance that we will close that the high or low of the day will be outside of this area, okay? There's like an 85% chance that we will break the overnight high and low, okay? Does that tell us which side it's going to go to? Not necessarily, but let's just assume that the market is bullish, and so there is an 80% chance that we are going to break this high right here. So then what do? You come in and you say, okay, I want to take a trade to 4,100 and then I'm going to set, my stop equal to this based off of how far away it is, Yeah, you got something like that, right? So if you go and you build a strategy and you do a back test based on a scenario like that, here's what you're going to find. The probability of that trade working out is much more dependent on what the risk reward that you set is rather than on the actual setup. So the outlays that you get from those daily behaviors doesn't really affect the probability of your trade working out when you're trying to hold a certain risk reward, right? So those sorts of scenarios end up becoming really good guides. They end up being really good guides, but they don't necessarily end up giving you very good trade entries or high probabilities or things like that, right? What are the sort of things that give you high probabilities? Something that would give you a high probability is if you have a certain price and you have the ability to go and buy that same thing somewhere else for cheaper, right? Arbitrage, essentially, right? So if you can pull off an arbitrage, then you can have a high probability of winning. That's how, sometimes in treasuries, I can, your related instrument. So I might not be able to say, I can go and buy the 10-year treasury somewhere else. Actually, you can go and buy it in the treasury market, in the cash market, but I don't have $100,000. So what can I do instead? I can say, I could buy the 30-year instead. And all I have to do to compare the two to each other is just go and do the math and find the conversion factors and everything. And then I can see what the spread is going and how they're changing and why the spread might be changing. And based on that, determine if one of them is cheap or expensive compared to the other, right? That's something that has a really high probability of working out, assuming that you can get an okay spot in the queue. Or there's a piece of news. A Fed speaker. Do we have Fed speakers today, by the way? And I don't see anybody listed. Let me double check on Forex Factory. No, we don't got anything else today. Tomorrow we got flash manufacturing PMIs and existing home sales, and FOMC member Daly speaks. Okay, well, let's just say, for instance, that Chairman Powell was speaking right now, and he said, things have changed in the market, and we have an immediate need to start raising rates, right? Then the 10-year Treasury would crater, and I can guarantee you, 100% with the 99.99% confidence, I could tell you that if Chairman Powell came out and said that today, that the 10-year Treasury would sell and that you would be able to sell it practically anywhere along the line and you would make money, right? That's something with a high probability of working out, right? So you've just got to remember, or just keep in mind, it's not like probabilities are useless. This is like anything else, like technical analysis. It's not like these things are useless. It's just they don't control things, right? A lot of these probabilities that you got to ask yourself, well, why does that happen, right? I'll give you another one. I'll give you an even better one. There's something like a 60% chance that the high or low of the day is formed in the first hour in the E-mini. Why is that? Well, because these large traders or funds that need to do transactions know that the largest liquidity is going to be available right on the open, and so they tend to place more orders and try and make their moves early. Okay, this is the thing: the earlier you make your money, the better. Okay, if you're stuck and it's like you're down and it's like late in the day, usually becomes less and less chance that you're going to be able to make it back. Okay, you want to make your money early. The good traders, they make their money early because of that, because that's when the activity is, right? So we have a statistic. I can explain why. That statistic happens, and so you can incorporate that into your trading, especially if you're scalping. Some of your better opportunities are going to be around the open. You might not want to do like exactly on the open because that can kind of be volatile and random, but some of your best opportunities are going to be around the open in the ES, right? And we know why. We can explain why, right? But there's some of these other things that are like, if the point of control was over here yesterday, there's a 55% chance that we're going to touch that point of control during the day somehow or something like that. For all we know, that's random. And maybe there is a reason that happens that we don't understand. But we just have to understand that stat is a result of something else, right? The stats don't cause things to happen. It doesn't go down there because there's this statistic, right? And after the first 5 to 10 minutes of a session, it's hard as hell, but when it pays off big. Yeah. That's really hard to do in the treasuries, man, because sometimes they just pick a direction and it's like, from an order flow perspective, it's really hard to know what they're going to do. But the E-mini, oh yeah. Just that first impulse of volume in the futures in the E-mini can tell you a lot. Okay. But anyways, stats don't control anything. So something I like about Futures Trader 71 is he understands that. He comes in and he says, like you can have all of these outlays on your trading strategy, but when you're taking that individual trade, like the chances of it happening are like 50-50. And he's right, because the stat is not deterministic, right? You get what I mean? Whereas the price differential that I can buy this asset in a different place for cheaper and then sell it in the venue that I'm normally looking at, that's deterministic, right? It's a little bit different. Or there's a piece of news that's going to change people's expectations of the future. That's deterministic. You get what I mean? You can get edges that are deterministic, but the stats and looking off of market information, it's not. And maybe there's a reason that stat exists, but a lot of what we look at is just noise. And so you get all of this stuff where traders believe something and they trade off of it, but the reality is when you really look at the larger statistical properties of it and you really get deep into the statistical quant kind of stuff, you realize that it's not really useful. So that's why I don't have an incredible focus on the volume profile. I look at it, I'm sure I factor it in somehow, but I don't try and game out stats of that nature, because when I would find a stat and I tried to backtest a strategy based on that trade, it wasn't, they didn't work. It didn't work. So, and that's kind of another limitation, is you get people, and some of them are really good traders and probably make more money than me, but they may also have a more limited analysis than what I'm able to do with my skills. So they might know that there's a probability of something happening, but they're not sophisticated enough to be able to go and create a robot that will actively trade off of that with a given risk reward or certain rules about how to set your risk reward to see how profitable that trade actually is. Yeah. It probably went too deep into that now. Bots. Good morning. How are you? Man, I don't know why I keep feeling like this contact is like twisted, but it's not. It's fine. I think it was just kind of probably the glare from that. And my eyes aren't actually watering a ton this morning, which is also kind of odd. Maybe if I dab it a little bit, it'll get it going, because sometimes that dries it out and makes it want to water more. I need to bring this back down. Oh, it looks like Jay already took one. So I'm a little miffed about something. Where did it go? Oh, okay. Yeah. So I need to look at how Jay takes orders, because I have two versions of Jay running. One version tries to go long and one version tries to go short. And only one version of him got filled there. They don't end up always taking the same trade on opposites. And so on a volatile day like yesterday, they both ended up losing. I'm wondering if I'm just straight going long in both of them. And what I really need to do is I need to say, when I get to a certain point, I'm going to put my limit order down here. And then if the imbalance reverses before that, I cancel it. And just trying to put a limit order out there to get filled rather than because it may be the issue of like it does the tick. By the time it says I should get long here, it's already up. And so that's why one of them gets filled and the other one doesn't. Maybe maybe the problem is I'm trying to use limit orders. Let us see. Ah, I do use limit orders. So, of course, one of them's not going to get filled. Yeah, maybe I should change it. We'll see. I would like to be able to test. Maybe I need to go back to, instead of trying to do the one long and the one short, I should just do one limit orders and one market orders and see what the difference between those two are. And see how much slippage I get with the market orders and if it's really worth it or not. I'm also putting it in at the close of the current bar. Maybe I need to do it differently. Oh, maybe that could be. If it's going down. Oh, no. Either way, I would want to do it on the close of the bar. But I could try hitting into the open of the bar. And that would be like, should always be like one tick worse. But it should almost always fill anyways. Like it would convert into a market order most of the time. Man, I'm still like thinking about my freaking contact. What's the deal? Sometimes when that happens, it's because I like flipped my contacts, but I don't think that's what happened. See, on this trade right here, which one was it? It's the false. Well, that's weird. That shouldn't have been a short. Oh, hold the boat. Hold the boat. No, well, wait. So if there's spot 2, this one is wrong. Oh, they're opposites of each other. Inverse is the right one. Ah, okay. So I had which one was which backwards. Well, let's fix that. Let's fix that. Or actually, I won't flip them around that way. I will say if it's not inverse, so it's normal, then we will go short and we'll go long. Otherwise, we'll go long, we'll go short. Better. Okay. Is that Heiken Ishi? You're talking about this chart that I pulled over here? This is just a one range chart. So the algorithm tries to run on every price change. I might change that. I don't know if trying to do things on every price change is really very effective. Because I was doing it with Ace, and there was kind of didn't be, well, you'll see it over here actually. So I have them turned on. So what should happen is when price crosses the moving average, in certain situations, Ace will try and go short. So we can come back and we can look at where he tries to get in. But I don't know if doing it every bar actually works. I think that sometimes what will happen is it'll come down and then he'll try getting in and he ends up getting in here. And right, it's like he's too late. So that's where I was getting into this, gaming this whole thing out, where it was like, oh, okay. So if you really want him to get in like exactly at that price, probably what needs to happen is you need to look for all of these other conditions first, and then when they happen, enter in the stop limit order there so that it will enter in exactly at that spot or something like that. And then you're going to get this other problem, which is like, what if it does all this? And maybe you have to manage the orders yourself.
Winston's mom says get your traders gonna trademark https://merch.streamelements.com/spec. because the Strudeltaste so much better in his traders gonna trade mux. Danke.
Okay, well, while I've been yapping, there's been a pretty good 10 tick move up. I didn't really see anything in that news that made me want to think that it was going to move, so I didn't trade anything, but I also I really haven't been paying attention well today, and there'll probably be a lot of that today because I'm a little tired. It was a long day yesterday. Because first there was all that trading, and then we went and we exchanged our van. Man, it is still doing it. I wonder if I switch them here. I don't think that's what it is, but oh, that's definitely not it. I only did demo yesterday, and most of the big trades during first hour and stayed away from FOMC minutes. Well, you want me to show you what I did yesterday? It's definitely not perfect, okay? It was definitely not perfect yesterday. So I remember when we started out, we had like a good trade in the treasury, but then we were trying to buy over in the E-mini and it wasn't working out. Then we said, okay, we'll back off. We'll just try the one ticker. Oh, and we had this thing where it was like, yeah, we got like a big winner and then we didn't take it. So it was reversing. Can your lenses fall off? That's never happened. Okay, so then I had this bender. One or two of these were like a misclick. Anyways, so then I backed off. Okay, let's regroup, re-strategize a little bit, take a one standard rotation trade. That one worked. So then when I thought we were pretty solidly in the bottom, I took one with full size and it worked out. This trade at one point was like 900. It almost got to 1,000. Okay. Then, it took another treasury. When I got out of that, like everything fell apart, right? So, I had a couple of scratches there. I had a loser. I had another loser in the ZN. Like here was a bunch of them in the ZN. Okay, and this one was a little sketch too because I widened what I was taking. Not that one, this one. I gave myself a little bit more room, and there was one that kind of ticked against me pretty badly, but it worked out in the end. But then that noise came in, and look at that, man. Look at that. Huh? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a row. And there was like almost no excursion against me on those ones. So I just could see the spots where they were going to turn and the reactions on them. And, immediately hit in with a market order, and it would just immediately go to the target and it was done. So maybe some of the prices might be a little bit different on a live order, but wouldn't have mattered because it was moving so much that they still would have gotten filled. So yeah, that's why I was like, yesterday was like some of my best scalping ever. But then I went and we exchanged the car, and then I stayed up, got home and was looking at some things and ended up staying up a little later than I should have. And so I didn't really get a very good night's rest. That 07 has filled out quite a bit, hasn't it? Notice though that they're still able to slice through this whole area here in the 10-year really easily. Yeah. You got to be careful about that area because the market makers, for whatever reason, don't like that area. Yeah, do you think that it was off of the Philly Fed? I don't know, man. So here's the thing. Come back and look at the numbers, right? Okay. Philly Fed Manufacturing Index, actual 31.5, forecast 40, previous 50. That was not a good number at all. Unemployment claims 444, 453. Okay, so unemployment claims were in line. So if that was really off of the Philly Fed, then the answer that they're saying is that the Federal Reserve is not going to increase interest rates and everything is fine and that taper is not going to happen. But then the treasuries didn't react to that. The dollar didn't react to that. I don't think that that's what it is. I think that the E-mini is just back in, okay, we're recovered and we want to buy it mode. I think it's just technical dip buying, but it could be wrong. Hard to prove that one out, right? But because I don't have anything predictive that tell me that's going to happen, I don't necessarily want to trade it, especially this early when the volume is light and I'm not on my top. Maybe if I was doing really hot, I would have taken along there. I don't know. There was a pretty good sell on the initial news too, which is kind of funny. Bitcoin up 40% from yesterday's low. Yeah, so you're going to see this, man, especially from Zero Hedge. All of the cryptocurrency guys are going to be pumping how much it's recovered really hard because they are going to be trying really hard to get everybody to jump back in. It's just, there's going to be this thing where everybody's going to be looking at it and they're going to say, you know what? And anybody that wasn't involved before is going to look at that chart and they're going to say, you know what? If I had been in the cryptocurrencies, I would have lost money. I should continue to stay out. That's what's going to happen. Remember, Tesla bought Bitcoin around 40K? Is that the case? Well, MSTR was average position around 35, right? If they didn't say anything positive, it would be so bad for them. Well, yeah, with Zero Hedge in particular, you got to remember that they are heavily invested in it. And they say they're one of the worst offenders at saying things that are complete BS, trying to pump it. Jamie Dimon really wants to fix the U.S. healthcare system. His super league with Bezos and Buffett didn't work, so a few months later he's trying again, this time with J.P. Morgan alone. Oh, really? How come nothing happened with that? We got like, what, 15 minutes to the open? Well, now the treasuries are pushing down. The inverse correlation here? Well, these things seem fairly in line. It looks like that we're still getting the 5-year trying to lead them a little bit, though. Because the 5-year is... So, when you get changes in rates... that really affects the 30-year. It's like a whip. It's like all of those cumulative, the increase of getting more yield every year. When you accumulate that over 30 years, it changes it a lot, right? But the 5-year is more directly hit, right? Because that's the one that's they're directly affected by it. So you will kind of get this thing where the 5-year will move first, even though maybe the 30-year ends up moving more. Kind of depends on what the spread is doing, though, right? And lately, the spreads have kind of been, they've oscillated, but they haven't changed really aggressively. Only a few basis point changes at a time. Credit Suisse weighs retention bonuses to stem flight of talent. Has it considered raising the minimum wage of, So, what was interesting? So there was, they've been making these headlines like a lot of big people are leaving at Goldman Sachs and what's going on. And is there something going on underneath that is bad? So I started looking at some of my colleagues that worked there when I worked there, and my boss in particular, who had climbed up the ladder pretty high. I mean, he was top dog in Salt Lake to some extent, and he was leaving. He was leaving to work in, where was he going? I think he was going to Wells Fargo, which I was kind of like, I don't think I would want to work for Wells Fargo, but I digress. So I asked him, why are people leaving? And he said, it wasn't some of it is just regular turnover, but he also said, some of it is their strategy behind getting more workers in higher value locations, so not hiring everybody in New York and doing some in other places. And so here's what I think happened. I think that the pandemic changed a lot of people's minds about where they want to live. You know what I mean? And a lot of people that are in New York decided they don't want to live in New York anymore, and wherever the deal is. And, that might not have lined up exactly with the way that the company was doing it. And so I think that's why you're seeing this rotation of talent. I was noticing, I keep an eye on the market. I was noticing that Fidelity was moving people into Salt Lake too. Fidelity seems to be hiring a bunch of people in Salt Lake. So when I see these talents moving, I don't know if it's just if you paid them more, they would probably stick around. But I don't think it's just that, they're really unhappy or anything. It's like a big combination of factors. Like the financial industry as a whole is going to get smaller now, right? It actually will probably be good for their stocks because they can be more profitable with less people. But like the consumer, like especially banks like Wells Fargo, friends, the consumer banking business, the actual like holding money for people and doing credit cards is not going to be worth as much in the future, right? It's like the Visa and MasterCards of the world are going to be like screwed at some point. You'll still be doing loans, so giving people loans will still be profitable, but a lot of this other stuff that they're making money off of, the fees and all that sort of stuff, yeah, probably not going to be as common. New York and San Francisco, you're correct. I'm watching the city folk rethink where they lived last year was like a practice for flatland, future folk living online more than in offices. Yeah. So it's kind of funny because then you get this thing from this push from the Biden administration where they kind of want to turn everything into the cities. Isn't that funny? Which to some extent makes sense, but I think they're going about it completely wrong. So they're going about it like so here's the thing. Housing is costing too much. Okay. Like cities implement zoning requirements that increase the price of housing unnecessarily by making it difficult to build houses. Okay. And there are places where they should have built high density housing, like condos or apartments or whatever, and they can't. Okay. But what the Biden administration is doing is they're saying like every neighborhood needs to have this stuff, sort of a thing, which is like, this is a bad idea. People aren't going to like it. So yeah, as people move over. And then the really big annoying thing is that all of the people, especially from California, they come around and because their houses were already worth so much, they come in and they unnecessarily bid up the price of housing everywhere else. Ugh. What's this he's tweeting here? Oh, that is weird. This guy is suggesting that USDC is really just Tether. Well, anyways. 10 minutes to the open. Man, I went through that whole thing and that was only like 5 minutes of me yapping. Gosh. It's gonna be a long day. No, we need to keep this up. But it always comes back down. Ethereum up 17%. Did you get to see Edge Pro X? Yeah, I did. It looks like it's an okay platform. They had one or two features that I was like, why? Finally, somebody did it. Why doesn't everybody else have this? Maybe it will kick them into gear. Beat. Cross trading. Really, the thing that I really liked was like, I can have up a chart of the ES, but when I put the orders in, it goes into MES and vice versa. Like, I think that would be nice. I mean, I guess it's kind of fun to have both the ES and the MES DOMs up and everything, but I think that if I could consolidate it and just only show the ES and replace this area with other DOMs, I'm not sure which one I would do, but I don't know. I guess I was kind of able to fit the other ones in, but probably what I would do is I would just expand it so that the YM and the NQ had more space. That would be nice. Could you explain Tether to me as if I am a 6-year-old child? Okay, so here's what happened. Here's what happens. You give me $100, and then I give you this token, and you can go and use this token to go and buy other tokens that are cool and you want to have. Okay, these other tokens are like Bitcoin and Ethereum and so on and so forth. Okay, so you go and you exchange all of these tokens and stuff, and then you come back and you say, okay, I want to exchange my token for the Tether again. So you go back into the Tether, and then you say, okay, I want to exchange from the Tether back into dollars. Okay, so I am supposed to have held that $100 there for you, while you had the token. And when you give me the token back, I'm supposed to have $100 sitting in the bank to exchange it back into real dollars, your token for real dollars. Okay, that's what Tether is supposed to be. And what we're finding out is that Tether doesn't have $100 in the bank account. It has $4 in the bank account, and it has $60 of promissory notes from other banks, and it has $30 of, various digital assets like digital gold and things like that. So you wanting to cash out your whole $100, they can't do it. They can't do it. They would be like, we're shutting down transactions right now because the market's too volatile or something like that, right? That's Tether. It's a Ponzi scheme. Well, so here's where it gets iffy, okay? It wasn't like you gave them $100 and then they came back and they didn't have your $100. It's so much worse. I came in and I gave them $100. Okay, so they're supposed to have $100 worth of Tether. Like the whole supply is supposed to be $100, right? And then you bought in somewhere else. You bought from somebody else's token. You exchanged your dollars directly for this other token that you wanted, the Bitcoin, right? And then you exchanged your Bitcoin for the Tether that was out there. And now you want to exchange your Tether into dollars, okay? But you have $1,000 that you need to exchange, right? So you're exchanging $1,000. There was only ever $100 put into it. How is that possible? How are you able to buy that many Tethers? Well, because what Tether has been doing, or at least what we believe is the case, is that they've been printing Tethers without anybody buying in and giving them dollars to justify creating them. So they're basically creating money out of thin air and putting it into the market. Yep, $1,000 exchange. There was only 100 put into it. Exactly. So, what does that make Tether really? It's a fractional reserve. It's just like the Federal Reserve, right? The Federal Reserve can print money out of nowhere. They can print money and give it to other people, and then it's just like leveraged. It's like a loan, right? That's what Tether does. Is they say, okay, you give us $100 and we'll print $200 worth of Tether, and you consider that extra $100 a loan that you have to pay us back. And so then you pay us back in Bitcoins instead of dollars, right? Because where would they get the dollars from? Nowhere. So they give Tether back to pay off that loan. They give Tether back Bitcoins, right? So there was money was created out of nowhere. That money was used to pump the market up and push the markets up, but then no money ever comes back into Tether to fill their reserves. And so the reality is that if all of the people in Tether that held it today tried to exchange their money for dollars, they would not be able to do so. Israel intercepted armed drones sent by Iran, and Joe Biden is trying to make a deal with them right now. I get this whole thing about like we made a deal with Iran and maybe we should have stayed in it. But now that we've gotten out and the way that Iran is behaving right now, I think it is absolutely insane to be negotiating with them right now. Like really absolutely insane. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that at some point Iran is like, they're going to make this agreement and Iran is going to do something and it is really going to come and bite Joe in the butt. Like it could be a significant election issue in the future. The entire Binance ecosystem is going to explode so big, USDT and all of it. I survived Mt. Gox. It's a trap. Yeah, well, it's like this. I think Mt. Gox was doing the same thing, right? Mt. Gox had this robot, and the robot was saying, "I have $1,000 to trade here," and there wasn't that much. And the whole thing that freaks me out about the cryptocurrency market is I developed this metric, and I was like, I have a theory about how things work, and it should behave this way. So I go and I write it all up, and I plot it out on a graph, and it literally showed me exactly what I was supposed to see. Like I just had to change one scaling factor and that was it. It was like perfect. This is exactly, and what did it show me? Big spikes every time that there was about to be a crash. And when I go back and I look at it, every time that there was like a real crash like that because of the spike, there was fraud. There was fraud. It was basically what the model says is the price of Bitcoin is higher than what would make sense based off of actual money flowing through the Bitcoin ecosystem. Money is coming out of nowhere. What do you make of the huge volume before the open at 20? Oh, that 6,000 that traded there? I don't know. The thing is this move up was a pretty solid move up. I'm not entirely sure if it completely lines up with what the news was at the time and everything else. We did just come off of like a really bad series of days, you know? So I don't know if those necessarily have to really mean anything significant for us. You know, we are going to have some, you know, so we've got these single prints. Single prints start up at 41.26 and then go to 41.33. So there's kind of all of these areas that they may try and retrace because before those were the areas that they just swept right through, right? Where for whatever reason the liquidity didn't like. But printing money isn't free. The SEC opened Pandora's box by not regulating crypto. I don't get the whole like. It's just it really is like I don't get why it wasn't regulated faster. They just kind of let it be. Like they didn't think that it was gonna continue or something. I don't know. Or maybe these guys they just really don't want to rock the boat. Maybe. Okay, let's pull this down here. Oh, so there was a little bit of a selling there before the open, but I don't know if that's a big deal. Let's just make a note there at 20, which is close to where the open is, that there was some volume. You can see there's some buying here on the open. It's not super crazy, just kind of a standard open on the upside. So maybe they just continue through. You think so? I don't know. So normally the pattern has been they're buying on the open, but then it sells and it's, you know, it sells hard for a while and then they recover and they move up. But this one is kind of looking like maybe it's just up and then they're just going to be up and away and it's just going to go. I don't know. Safe Moon is making a comeback. Thanks. I can't believe that Dave Portnoy is getting. If I find out that Dave Portnoy was paid to be doing stuff with Safe Moon, oh man. Okay, well, I don't like that. So. Well, a little bit of volume there. It sure seems bullish, though, at the moment, doesn't it? It's actually this move, when you go back to like the whole overnight move, this move is a little crazy. Just a little bit crazy, huh? Oh, I know what I was going to say. Because Brett was saying like the whole Binance ecosystem is going to explode so big. So during the route yesterday, there was weird stuff going on at the Binance exchange. Yeah. So I like, because they have like these different, I don't know, I guess you call them ETFs of sorts that they trade there. And there was like aberrations in them. So I am kind of suspicious of them at this point. Okay, well, they're still trying to push up here. Yeah. This is difficult because I don't, it could just continue up. Like this could just be like trend day, but it could flip down so hard at any of these spots too. Well, they actually turned this candle into a 1 minute candle into a doji, so that's the most selling we've seen all morning, at least. It's not much, but. Just in case anyone missed it, Tether's terms of service clearly says that they have no obligation to redeem USDT for USD for anyone, including their verified customers. But only if you understand the words, not just read them, and you know what obligation means. This is Jorge Stolfi. Okay, still kind of turning bearish. Here you can see over in the treasuries again, like the 5-year leading them up, right? 5-year moved 2 ticks, the other 2 only moved 1. I blow my nose here. I made a honking sound to cover the silence. Ah! I really don't like having the silence. Like I've been noticing, I'll hum, I'll do all sorts of dumb things. Okay, yeah, that didn't work. And didn't get wet. Did I take that? Because I didn't know. I actually did kind of think there was a good chance of it falling down. I don't know if I can just buy it here though, man. Like, man. All right, let's just try. We'll just try buying the top. That'll turn it around on us, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait. They didn't do it. Come on. It's gonna do it. Watch. Clicky click, huh? Oh, you know what I'm missing here? Where's my dollar? There's my dollar. Okay. Oh, and look, they did stop me out, so then I can just get in again. And just kind of screw around. If I see something then where I really feel like I have a real probability of predicting what's going to happen, then maybe I'll switch. That's a change in the bonds. Yes, sir. My. Not seeing much come through on Twitter right now. I kind of saw a little bit of stopping out action there at 08 in the 10-year. Might still get filled, but it'd probably be close. Okay. Curious. Was that a market order came through? Oh yeah. Lots of big orders came through in that spot. Look at that. You see all that? All that came in all in within 1 second. But that must have been one big order. That's crazy. Yeah, dude, that's not the way that's supposed to work. Yeah, well, that sucks. If I had gotten filled a little earlier, I might have gotten out at 08, so. Of course, it's right back up after they stop me out. What bullshit. What a load of bullshit. It does not do that to me when I'm not streaming. I don't know, man. Like, it's just messing with the book. Why are they buying 3K plus in the micros? Well, are you sure that it's not just a bunch of retail traders doing it? Oops. Oops. Fix that. There we go. What do you mean when this doesn't happen? I'm suggesting that maybe a market maker saw that and decided to go get me first before popping it back up. Like in that situation, the amount of edge that I had was so narrow that really one big guy, if he wanted to, could have screwed my trade. That's all. It's okay, I got it back. Probably had more to do with just that they weren't getting the fill up there, so they. I missed that one. Where are we at compared to yesterday? Yes, okay. Wowee, Minnie, look at that. That one didn't work. I don't know. This kind of has the hallmarks of like a dead cat bounce. You know what I mean? Like it is unreasonably bullish right now for no apparent reason. The E-mini was like 2 days ago. You guys were all freaking out. Nothing's changed. All of a sudden, you just can't wait to buy it, and you're just pushing through every price you can. But though on the other hand, the whole sell was a little bit questionable too. That the whole sell kind of looks like it was just hedge funds going short for no reason too. Well, not for no reason, but because they were, they think that things are priced in. So that doesn't mean that it has to be a crash. It could just mean like sideways all summer, right? See, now they fill it. The ones that I took weren't crazy, but it's just been... They've been tricksy. And the E-mini has erased all of the single prints we pointed out earlier. How much higher could it go? Nobody knows. Sure doesn't look like it's backing off there, though, does it? That's why you need new technicals when news is ignored. Or you just don't trade it. I'm sure that there is a way to have, from an informed trader perspective, be buying the E-mini right now, and I'm just not informed enough on that. But because basically what you're saying is, well, when the market gets quiet, you just have to gamble. Oh yeah, that's right. Because Ace was around the other day. Who was looking for you, RJ? He's like, "Where's RJ?" And then it was like the one day RJ wasn't here. Oh man, so you want to hear my story? So, okay, cool. We got that one. So I have this car, the van, and it's pretty beat up, right? Like the spoiler, there's like a spoiler in the back, and it's just gone. So like there's this area of the car that's like, it looks bad. And one of the front panels was, the front bumper's kind of a little bit detached. One of the side panels was hit and bent up pretty bad. And the inside of the car was always dirty. Like when we got it, it was dirty. We probably should have taken it to like a professional cleaner, but it was always awful, right? So we got to replace this car. So I went and I did all of my research. Okay. And are we getting glitchy in the stream? What? Hold on. No, I'm not dropping frames. It's probably just, YouTube being a little iffy. Minivans in Utah are called Mormon assault vehicles. Well, I tell you what, man, with the whole vehicle shortage that's going on right now, it is really hard to find vans. So I'm sitting here like, well, it'll probably be difficult to find the van that I want, and I'm probably going to have to pay more than I need, but like we've been planning on replacing this car for a long time, and my wife saved up a ton of money and we needed it for trips. So it's like, it's time to do it. So I go and I find this van that is like what we're looking for. Because I went and I tried a bunch of different ones. Okay, like I tried all the different brands of them, and then when I decided that I would prefer the Toyota, I tried all of the different trims. Like I knew what the features were and how much they affected. Okay. So here's the thing, and this is where it relates to trading, and I've said this before, the biggest edge that you can have, the first edge, is always going to be knowing what something is worth. If you know what something is worth better than somebody else, you have an edge over them, okay? And when you look at the things that the banks like to trade off of, they like to trade off of what is something worth, right? They do arbitrage. So, I know what it's worth, right? I know what my car is worth. In fact, I even went to a Chrysler dealership, and I wasn't like super interested in their car, but it was okay. I mean, it's high rated, but it was just okay. And they were offering me $3,000. So like they caught on that my wife likes purple, so they found one that was kind of purplish. It wasn't really purple. It was like blueberry. She didn't really like it. But they did that, and then they offered us $3,000 for our trade-in. They looked at it and they appraised it and everything. They looked at all the problems with it. They wanted $3,000. So we're like, okay, but I don't think that's the one that I want. So then we go to this place where we knew they had the one that we wanted, the Toyota. So I go and, driving this car. The car is like immaculate. The pricing on it is correct, which car dealerships is going to be correct, unfortunately. I mean, so one of the things that's kind of iffy right now is that because there's such a shortage of cars, when they go out and they buy a car, the quality of the cars that they're buying to begin with aren't as good. And so then in order to get them up to their standards, they're putting more money into them than normal. So their margin is not as high as it would normally be, right? So they don't have as much money to work with. Okay. I get it. I understand. So it's okay, because I've looked everywhere. I know I'm not necessarily going to get a cheaper price. If I just negotiate it, no, like I know how much room they have to work with. Okay. So the price is all right. So they come back and they show me the numbers and everything. They don't have any crazy stuff added to it either, which is good. And they offer me $500 for my car. I'm like, what? So when it was a girl that was doing our who was the salesperson. And I don't think it was her fault, because she was like, okay, let me see what I can do for you. And she went and she talked to that guy like 3 times, I think. She talked to him. And then they came back and they said, okay, actually, we'll offer you $1,000 for it. Because for $500, like, okay, guys, like, I know that there are people selling these same vans, like from a dealer for like 7,000-8,000. Okay, so don't be like, I know what the car is worth and what I should be able to get for it. And you give me $500, like, why wouldn't I just try and sell it myself? For $500 is so trivial for everything else, whereas $3,000 is like actually kind of can make a little bit of a difference on your payment, you know, like that could bring it down like $50 a month or something. So why wouldn't I try and sell it, right? So this lady, she was like certain that we were going to come in the morning and buy this car, but because her manager wouldn't give us the price that we wanted on our car, I didn't respond back to her text. I was like, well, I told her, well, I'm going to go look at a couple of these other things, right? So then here's what I did. My wife went down to CarMax and sold the car at CarMax. I was like, just go take it down there and see what it is. And they bought it for $2,800. They bought the car for $2,800, just like straight up right there. And then I went and picked her up. And then we turned around back and we said, okay, well, we sold the car now so that our car is not an issue and we can buy it. And the girl was like, oh, okay. So she actually they took $200 off so that it was as though they had given us the $3,000 for our trade-in from the beginning. I just thought it was so funny that they said, oh, we're only going to give you $1,000. So I immediately turned around and sold it to somebody else, like right then and there. And you know what? Vans are hard to come by. So maybe not. I don't know what their perspective is on it, but I kind of think they missed out a little bit. I think they missed out a little bit. I sold a car at CarMax once, super duper easy and very fair price. Is CarMax? Yep, it's still a place. I went there. Come to Steve's used van dealership. The price is okay. You know what the best part was is that I got, not the best part, but she took it as cash. So I had like $2,800 in cash. So I made a little video that I'll try and turn into a TikTok for Steve later. I think I'm going to do it as like, you know, like this in 10 minutes and you'll receive financial good fortune or something like that, you know? Anyways, the whole thing was just funny. And then yeah, we got the car. But that's why I'm a little tired, because it was like, not only did I trade for a long time yesterday and it was pretty wild trading, but then I also bought a car and I didn't get home until like 9 because that dealership was like really short staffed. So, we do get something here coming up in a few seconds. It's the CB leading index. Which is the change in the level of composite index based on 10 economic indicators. Tends not to be very impactful because it factors in things that the market already knows. Other numbers. Steve's used the car in snake oil. Only the best creeps and kidnappers buy their plain white creepy van. Yeah, it was a plain white van. Did I say that it was plain white? Or I was saying earlier something about that. Wait, when did I mention it was van? Oh, maybe it was. So she didn't like that the van was white, but then it was like a sparkly white. So I guess she was okay with it. And she's like, well, I could put like decals on it or something. I don't know. So because we went to another place where they had a gray van and she didn't like the gray as much as the white. So well, I tell you what, the treasuries are awfully thick up here. Nobody's biting at 11.5 though. Not yet. They're trying to force him in. You see that big old bid? He is trying to squeeze that. I think I'm regressing back to 17. I had many different kinds of cars, but never a Mustang. Someone suggested a Thunderbird, and I like the symbology, but a Mustang is cool. It's hard to find the Thunderbirds now, man. I used to see them all the time when I was on my mission, but now, oh my gosh, they just stacked that at 11.5 right away. It's kind of suggesting that you might even be able to buy it at 12, but I'm gonna have to manage this by hand.
Block buy.
Shh. Wow. You see that? I guess that's not happening. So there's still a little bit of an order imbalance here that I'm not happy about. Trump said that the stock market would crash if Biden got elected. You know what? I think that if Donald Trump was president right now, the markets would be different. Yeah. I think the issue with saying that is that whether or not Joe Biden got elected had nothing to do with how much liquidity the Federal Reserve injects into the system. And that's really the only thing that matters right now, right? Somebody seems to be taking some profits there. There's still 7K at 11. Should note, by the way, we're still like in levels that we were at yesterday in the treasuries. So to see like big fight in this area, we're not like at like super crazy prices because we moved down way more yesterday than we've moved up today. Prices on used cars are up 20% due to chip shortage. Yeah, it was not a good time to buy a car. I was quite unhappy about it. But I looked at it and I was like, you realize how long this could last for, this chip shortage, right? Because it could be like upwards of 2 years before like things have really truly cleared out. So yeah, could only get worse is the thing. So that's why I was like, well, I guess we were planning on it anyways, so I guess I don't have a choice. Man, how far do you think the E-mini is going to go today? Okay, finally got that one. I'm a little frustrated. Well, I shouldn't be because I'm doing okay. But I'm a little frustrated in the treasuries here. There's a couple of really good ones that I just missed. Just didn't get filled. Okay. Upside 41.40. Oh, really? So I've been looking at this and I'm like, wow, that's a little crazy. I don't know if we want to, but it's actually like a standard move would be to 41.47 in the regular session. So I don't know. I wonder if I can go in and like factor into this my formula how much of an overnight gap there was, because that's a pretty big overnight gap, and that maybe limits the upside. I don't know. Trump might be looking at an indictment this week. I don't. Did you read Donald Trump's statement about that? Let me find that. I thought it was really good. Oh man, where was it? There we go. Oh yeah, here it is. Okay, here's the Donald Trump's statement on this. I've just learned through leaks in the mainstream media that after being under investigation from the time I came down the escalator 5.5 years ago, including the fake Russia hoax, the 2-year, 48 million no collusion Mueller witch hunt, the impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, and others, that the Democrat New York Attorney General has informed my organization that their investigation is no longer just a civil matter, but also potentially a criminal investigation working with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. There is nothing more corrupt than an investigation that is in desperate search of a crime. But make no mistake, that is exactly what is happening here. The Attorney General of New York literally campaigned on prosecuting Donald Trump even before she knew anything about me. She said that if elected, she would use her office to look into every aspect of my real estate dealings. She swore that she would definitely sue me. She boasted on video that she would be, and I quote, a real pain in the ass. She declared, just wait until I'm in the Attorney General's office and I've got my eyes on Trump Tower. She also promised that if elected, she would join with law enforcement and other attorney generals across this nation in removing this president from office. And it's important that everyone understand that the days of Donald Trump are coming to an end. The Attorney General made each of these statements not after having had an opportunity to actually look at the facts, but before she was even elected, before she had even seen a shred of evidence. This is something that happens in failed third world countries, not the United States. If you can run for a prosecutor's office, pledging to take out your enemies and be elected to that job by partisan voters who wish to enact political retribution, then we are no longer a free constitutional democracy. Likewise, the district attorney's office has been going after me for years based on a lying, discredited lowlife who was not listened to nor given credibility by other prosecutorial offices and sentenced to 3 years in prison for lying and other events unrelated to me. These investigations have also been going on for years, with members and associates of the Trump Organization being viciously attacked, harassed, and threatened in order to say anything bad about the 45th President of the United States. This would include having to make up false stories. Numerous documents, all prepared by large and prestigious law and accounting firms, have been examined, and many hours of testimony have been taken from many people, some of whom I have not seen in years. These Democrat offices are consumed with this political and partisan witch hunt at a time when crime is up big in New York City. Shootings are up 97%. Murders are at 45%, a rate not seen in 40 years. Drugs and criminals are pouring into our country in record numbers, and now our unprotected southern border, and people are fleeing New York for other much safer locations to live. But the district attorney and attorney general are possessed at an unprecedented level with destroying the political fortunes of Donald J. Trump and almost 75 million people who voted for him. By far the highest number ever received by a sitting president. That's what all these investigations are about, a continuation of the greatest political witch hunt in the history of the United States. Working in conjunction with Washington, these Democrats want to silence and counsel millions of voters because they don't want Trump to run again. As people are being killed on the sidewalks of New York at an unprecedented rate, as drugs and crime of all kinds are flowing through New York City at record levels, with absolutely nothing being done about it, all they care about is taking down Trump. And that's all I'm going to read. There's more. He is 100% right, man. Everything that he said in there is factual, right? New York is a mess right now. People are moving out. And what is the New York Attorney General doing? Following this vendetta against Donald Trump. And the media just eats it up. It's like, oh man, he's gonna get prosecuted, he's gonna go to jail. It's like, guys, this attorney general is somebody with an agenda. She's a political actor with an agenda that was literally elected to harass him. And everybody's getting excited about it. I don't necessarily think he can find anything, man. To be honest, I mean, I think that they have a pretty good case about, when they go to the, like, how are you going to get a jury to convict on something like that, man? Like, seriously. So, yeah, I think it's funny. And yeah, you're probably like, he's being censored now. Like the media refuses to repeat anything that he says. So you have to go to donaldjtrump.com and go to his blog to even see what he's saying. But he's saying stuff. And I'm not so sure that he wrote that, to be honest with you. It was a pretty well done document. He probably had help in writing that one, right? That wasn't just him off the cuff. Are you a Trump supporter? Well, I was in terms of like he was a Republican and I supported him. And if he was doing something that was, if he had a policy that was correct, then I supported him. And if he had a policy that was not correct, then I just kind of had to roll my eyes. So like here in this particular instance, yeah, I support him in that. He's being harassed by the New York Attorney General. And I think that we have a really big problem in our country if you can go around and harass people just based on their political identity. And it's a real problem. It's the same thing as happening with Matt Gaetz. Like, I don't know if anything's happened with Matt Gaetz, but like you'd see all the Democrats doing it, right? They're like, oh man, this other thing, other person tangentially related to him is going to jail. They might turn on Matt Gaetz and do the thing. And then the attorney for the guy that was under investigation, like straight up said that he used Matt Gaetz to get them a deal. Right. And so I don't know if anything's even going to happen to Matt. And they just eat this up. And so poor Matt, maybe he did nothing wrong. I don't know. Maybe he's like guilty as sin. And then, of course, that's like awful. But it's the further on this goes, the less there is of anything. What is this really? This is, if you're a Republican, the media and the law enforcement agencies come after you and try and do everything they can to destroy your life. And you see it, and they do it against any Republican that becomes prominent. And if you are a Democrat, like, let's say, New York Governor Cuomo, who literally is responsible for the death of thousands of people because of some of his policies, and then orchestrated a corrupt cover-up of it and did many other corrupt things as the governor of New York, and hardly anybody cares or looks at it. There is 100%. There's 100% an issue here where there's one side is not being treated the same as the other side. People are being investigated just because they're Republicans. And that's shit that happens in communist countries, not in the United States. So yeah, I agree with them on this particular issue. And if it was the same thing, if it was like every time that a Democrat became popular, that they started getting investigated and stuff, I would start to question it too. Like, it's not like the Republicans don't run slime ball campaigns, all right? But the media and the law enforcement agencies don't treat it the same. It's treated like tabloid stuff and nothing happens. And I don't understand when these people make salacious claims about other politicians now that aren't really proven, that is not also treated like tabloid stuff. You know? It sounded fake from the get-go. Plus, Biden allows a Russia pipe. Oh man, so that one, I'm not quite sure what to make of that. That one kind of upsets me too. It's like Joe Biden is all like super anti-Russia this, Russia. Everybody's concerned about what Russia is doing. And then they're like, oh, let's build a pipeline that gives them direct access to Europe and allows them to bypass Ukraine so that they can do whatever they want to Ukraine and continue to more substantially disrupt the world. Okay. And then they're doing this deal with Iran. I don't get it. It's just like they came in and they were like, well, whatever Trump was doing, we want to do the opposite of. And they didn't actually think about what the real implications of their policies are, because he keeps doing dumb things. And then the thing that frustrates me is that like nobody reports on it, right? Like I didn't hear regular people talking about this stuff. You guys I'm actually surprised that some of you guys are bringing this stuff up. Like I'm surprised that you brought up the Russian pipeline thing. It's not something that I would expect many people to be talking about. Yeah. Well, I guess the Republicans are paying attention and they know, but I don't see anything about this on mainstream media. I don't see anything about it on Reddit, right? Actually, surprisingly, yeah. Let's go look. Am I missing? Because the Iran deal in particular, like I don't see why would they be talking about that. Let's look. Reddit.com. If Trump okayed the pipeline, Maddow would do 15 shows on it. Oh yeah, like there's no way. But he was very against the pipeline. I think though the Democrats are probably running from the perspective of, well, it's not really fair for us to prevent them from building it. Whereas the Republican position of it is, it doesn't matter what's fair. We should be supporting what is best for us and the people of the world. You know. Okay, posts from the past week. Oh, look at that. That can't be right. So let's try sorting it by top. Top posts from the last week. Well, they're talking about the arms sale. Dozens of Senate conservative is posting about it, of course. So here you go. Joe Biden is negotiating with Iran to make a deal where they would be allowed to put their oil on the market and all of the sanctions against them would be lifted. And Reddit doesn't have a single post about it, except for on r/conservative. Come on, man. I don't know if anybody that's not a Republican is still listening to me, but how can you not see the problem with what's going on there, right? I can't believe that there is not a story about this in like world news. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I might be pro Iran. I just can't give them the nukes. They're gonna get them. I mean, like that's the thing. Yeah, here's the thing that makes me mad about the original agreement that they made. Obama comes in and he's all, this is really important to prevent Iran from getting a bomb. And then Donald Trump comes along and destroys the agreement. And what do we find? That they hadn't done shit. That their ability to create a nuclear bomb had not been hampered at all. In fact, probably had been enhanced. And it was only a couple of months before they were able to spin things up and start producing enough material to start making a bomb. And the only reason that they probably don't have a bomb right this instant is because of sabotage from the Israelis. And then you're going to turn around and you're going to negotiate with them? Can somebody explain that to me? How is this okay? How is this okay? 10 points. Oh, did you take the long there? I'm not as interested in the E-mini at the moment, even though I think probably there's more left to it. I don't know. We've got like 40 minutes left. There's usually still some movement here. We're kind of in the reversal time period. I find it so telling that the same people that wanted to go to war back in 9/11 are trying to back Palestine right now. I don't see that. When I remember when 9/11 happened, and keep in mind, I'm kind of a weird case here because I spent so much time reading internet forums when I was a kid, and I remember so much argument over the Iraq war and Afghanistan. And I remember that there was a lot of lefties that were very much against going into Afghanistan, even going into Afghanistan. And then, so when the Iraq war came, their opposition was even more fierce. And that's how it like really turned into a thing. Like, especially from the Move On guys, because they felt like they had just gotten rolled with Afghanistan. So they really needed to make a stand with Iraq. And you know what? They weren't wrong. I mean, I don't know. I still kind of think that Afghanistan, that we needed to do something there. But was what we did going in there and all that, was that really the right thing, or should we have just done a couple of airstrikes and then let chaos ensue? I don't know what you do. There's not really a win-win. There's not really a win situation in that one, right? The only reason Iran isn't allowed to have nukes is because they aren't pro-Israel. Well, yeah. Kind of when you run around saying that you're going to genocide a country, generally speaking, the rest of the world doesn't want you to have the nuclear bombs. Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. And if they were running around saying we want nuclear bombs so that we can genocide, Nigeria, I think that people would be equally, well, maybe not as upset, but I would hope that the world would still be trying to prevent that people from getting a nuclear bomb, because I don't think that anybody in the world wants to see a nuclear holocaust. Except for, Iran. No one could argue back then about going into Afghanistan. Everyone was heated and it felt justified. Iraq. Well, I don't think that anybody really thought about the consequences. Yeah. See, here's the larger thing. I hope I'm not getting too far off. I've been trying to keep it a little bit more politics related, but you guys are bringing up really interesting topics, and these are things that I think people need to think about to really understand the world, and therefore it is important to trading. And I don't know if I really want to keep buying the E-mini. Like, I took those. How did I do here? And I overcame my losers, and then I've got a little bit. So I got 2 winners on the treasury to keep me up. And I'm a little weary about the treasury now too, because it got so thick up here and it's still sitting there, which means that you can maybe get something from there to there, but you're probably not going to get filled. So you don't want to trade it. Okay. Here's the thing. We were taught a lesson. Like there is a period in history where this stuff happens, right? Like, there was World War II, and the balance of power in World War II, you basically set up the world regime that we have today, and then we had nuclear weapons came along, and it basically became to the point where a large-scale warfare of the type that we saw during World War II was not feasible anymore. And so the world moved into proxy wars and spy stuff. So like spy stuff became a lot bigger after World War II because of the situation, right? And so we saw that with the competition between the United States and Russia and communism and so forth. And they had many proxy wars, okay? So then there was the Vietnam War. Like immediately after that, we got into the Vietnam War. I don't think that a lot of young people today, particularly millennials, my generation, listen, the stuff that I know about the Vietnam War, I know because I watched Ken Burns' documentary. If you haven't seen Ken Burns' documentary on the Vietnam War, you should totally watch it. It is so good. There's controversial stuff in it, Maybe there's some things in there that should be hashed out and argued more, but it is so good, okay? As a documentary, it is so good. They don't really talk. There's like, they spend like a week on it in school. You don't really get the real, like, what really happened. Like our parents that lived through that, I guess they kind of know, but you'd have to be like on the older end of the parents, right? Because like the people that are in like their 80s and like maybe they fought in the Korean War and then they saw the Vietnam War. Those are the only ones that are really truly going to understand it. Like my parents, when the Vietnam started, because they're like in their 60s, that was like, they were young, so they might not have been paying attention to the news. They might not have gone through the whole experience, to understand what happened and understand the history, and then they're not really teaching it in the schools. Yeah, people in the United States don't understand the Vietnam War, and you know why? Because it's a little bit too personal. Like the people that went to Vietnam don't necessarily like to talk about it. And I totally understand why. It's a little different from like the Iraq and Iran wars. Like those people, they talk about it, but it's not the same with the Vietnam. Those people saw truly horrific things, and they don't talk about it. Okay, so what happens when you try and go into this country and you have a situation where you're trying to defend a country against insurgents, but you aren't really allowed to go to the place where the insurgents are coming from, and you're just kind of trying to fight this defensive war that is, and with allies that aren't very reliable and aren't really good guys anyways. Yeah, what happens? It didn't turn out well in Vietnam, and maybe the United States could have stayed there and it could have worked out. But hey, you know what? We left Vietnam, and even though Vietnam is still a communist country, it's actually not so bad. Like things are actually getting better there now. So maybe in the end, it was better to just let them go. I guess the situation has changed because Russia fell apart, right? But a lot of things happened that they couldn't have predicted back then. But in the end, it was kind of working out, right? So then we come to the Iraq and Afghanistan war, and all anybody saw was, oh yeah, we need to take out this threat of terrorism because this is like an existential threat to America. And they didn't sit down and think about, okay, but how do we actually accomplish our goals, and are we setting ourselves up for like another Vietnam? And that's exactly what we did because people didn't learn the history. Yeah, that's what I think. That's what makes the people coming out of war today, listening to guys who fought through Desert Storm and then went into all one Afghanistan. They were gung-ho for it. Yeah, that's another thing, is that the way that Desert Storm went out did have a big impact, because it was like, oh yeah, wars aren't so bad anymore. They just come in, we storm them and smash everybody, and then it's fine. But I mean, there's this larger historical question. I think that they're going to have to answer it at some point. After World War II, we had to rebuild Europe, and there was the Marshall Plan, and it worked really well, and the United States made a lot of money, and it was all good. But you can't necessarily do the Marshall Plan in an area that was undeveloped anyways, and the people don't necessarily want democracy or like you or any of that, right? So how do you do nation rebuilding in that kind of a situation? I think it's a rolling question that society is going to have to come up with a better answer for. I don't think that these sorts of things are just going to go away. I don't think it's a lot of people think that, okay, we just leave Iraq and Afghanistan and then we're never going to get involved in this sort of a thing again, and it'll be fine. I'm not convinced that it's going to be like that. I think that the Middle East is going to continue to be a thorn in the side of the world, and that with what Joe Biden is doing right now with Iran, that it's just going to get worse, because Iran caused a lot of chaos last time around, right? Yeah, if Russia didn't fall apart, maybe all of the stupid communist containment wars would have had a purpose. Yeah. It really, like, could you imagine if Russia was still the strong communist state today? How different the world would be? It's so weird. You say you're Iranian? Oh, really? So do you think that it's smart for them to be negotiating with Iran? Because I'm just like at a loss. Like I hear that and it's just like causes seizures. Like I'm trying to put myself in their position to explain why they want to do this so bad, and I can't come up with a reason, and it just, you says it's pointless. I just don't get it. It's like, dude, you're doing something that's objectively bad. They're gonna stop making a nuclear weapon for like a few years, and then they're gonna pick it back up again. You're gonna make another agreement down the line, I guess, maybe. But like in the meantime, they're going to continue to spread terrorism around the world and cause all sorts of problems in the Middle East. And also this Israel thing is a problem. So you guys get why the violence in Israel is catching more attention than it normally does, yeah? I mean, you may not agree with that, but this isn't the first time that missiles have been fired at Israel. It wasn't like the top story on Reddit. And you would even think that because they're shooting the missiles that they're just getting taken down, it wouldn't be such a big deal. But the problem is that Iran and Russia are kind of starting to help the people in Gaza. So you're running into an place where there could be a proxy war flashpoint in Israel because of that. Like, what's going to happen if the Russians start giving them like real missiles and stuff like that, right? That's what I think people are worried about. With aliens on the horizon, why are these assholes with Earth-based domination? Who's funding these people? Probably Iran. Well, no, actually, no. Man, what's the matter? I feel like I need to blow my nose. Like maybe I'm getting a little sick. Hold on. So, who is funding these people? If we're talking about Gaza, the whole world is. Yeah, the whole world is. Because, listen, Gaza is a whole. I don't want to use like I don't want to be offensive, and if anybody lives in Gaza, I'm not saying like you're bad people or anything, but let's just admit the reality that the conditions in Gaza, because it's been so war-stricken, are not very good, and the world realizes this, and they want to fix that, and so they've been giving them money. The world has been giving Gaza money to construct things. Look at the buildings that are getting taken out. They're like new buildings. I mean, they're not like brand new state-of-the-art stuff, but it's like construction that I see around in my city. Like some of these high rises, okay? Where is it coming from? The world has been sending a ton of money to build Gaza and not make it, such a deplorable conditions. And I think that the idea there is that if people are enjoying a better quality of life, that they won't be interested in such things. And there probably is some truth to that. Everybody's doing really well, and then you got your neighbors. You want to be friends, and it could go away. Could happen. But what happens is they give them all that money, and then they launder that money into missiles instead of improving the infrastructure there. Is what happens. So, and who is giving them the weapons? Well, I think that they make them, right? That's why they're so crappy. Because they've been getting better, right? But they're still not very effective weapons. I don't know. I might be wrong about that. I may be making an assumption. Man, when it gets up there at that high, I'm like, they're gonna push for more. But then I realize like they're distributing around 12 though. Like they're stuck around 12. Don't necessarily No. So there was definitely a meta order. Like somebody definitely wanted some here for some reason. I don't know why, but it definitely cooled off. Like I haven't seen any big orders since somebody sold at 12. So I'm not so sure that that's like there's a big meta order out there and they're still going to buy and they're going to buy up another 2/5. No. I can't say that, but I don't really know why they moved the way that they did either. Somebody was getting squeezed hard. Some of the videos show pretty advanced rocket tech. People in Gaza are completely uneducated and incapable of building such things. I don't know. I know that they don't just transport full missiles in, right? They have to do it in parts and stuff. But probably Iran is helping them. Probably other countries with extremists in them are helping them. It's really unfortunate because I don't know. Maybe I'm just too altruistic, but I don't think that if people really understood the consequences of their votes and things like that they really want a genocide. But like those guys have gotten into power there and they're not going to give it up. Like they should be doing a new election and getting rid of Hamas and electing somebody that wants to actually improve the lives of the people there and fix the problem, you know? But Hamas ain't going to do it. So we'll see. But it is going to be a problem. I think so. Because Russia coming in and they're saying like this is pertinent to our security interests and stuff like that. Like, yeah. And you see the way that the Israelis are reacting too, right? Like they're like they don't care anymore. They think that they've won. Well, not that they think that they've won, but like because a lot of the allies kind of abandoned Hamas to some extent, they're not really trying to play the PR war anymore. Like they don't feel like that how they deal with this conflict will affect support in the United States and will therefore influence, the future trajectory. I don't think they believe that anymore. I think that they're like, we're going to inflict maximum punishment upon Hamas in order to deter them from ever wanting to do anything ever again. This is what it looks like they're doing. So if Russia, Iran come in and start saying like, well, no, this isn't okay, we're going to try and equalize things, then things could get ugly. Things could get ugly. And then here you've got Joe Biden negotiating with the Iranians. Like, what? I'm surprised that Israel hasn't done anything to stop it. Maybe they've tried and they just don't listen. I don't know. I'm sure that Israel will continue to carry out covert operations against the Iranians. Okay, so I need to take a little bit bigger scan on the market here. Silver, gold, not really going anywhere. Oil hasn't moved a ton either. Currency's not really. Dollar's getting crushed here. Let's see here. When was this? Yeah, okay. So since the open, a lot of this open has been the dollar getting crushed. The E-mini has definitely petered out a bit. I don't know, man. This uptrend was a really super crazy. It reminds me of the uptrends that we had right after the lows of the pandemic. Yeah. You remember some of those days where we were up like 20% and stuff? Israel just uses Mossad to kill people strategically. They don't have any diplomatic power. Well, it's not that. I mean, like Israel has a lot of diplomatic power. It's just that the diplomatic power that they've had doesn't solve the problem, right? What are you going to do about it? It's kind of a bum deal over there, man. the month-long bull trend. No, I'm just talking about from the overnight into now. I don't know, man. Some of this action that we've been seeing here recently is a little weird because I've had a pretty good read on where the market was going for a long time through most of the bull market. And I keep going like, well, we're going to come into this place where it's going to be really hard to read and you won't know what's going on and it'll be hard to trade. And we started to get that the last 3 weeks or so, and that was a lot of selling where it was like, well, you couldn't just buy it anymore, and they were selling it and it was unclear why. And I still say it's unclear why. Like there's lots of different things happening to push the market down, but it's not like there's like this one thing that's like, well, that we're going to go down until this one thing is solved and then we can recover. You know what I mean? So it's like we go down on all of the, and we can point to a problem like inflation, and then it recovers like crazy, like nothing happened, And what reason can you point to for it? I'm not sure. Could just be like liquidity issues and stuff. So I'm kind of coming into, and I'm also kind of coming into, well, things don't do as well in May and June, and then you get less liquidity. And I've often tried trading during that time and not done very well and had a tough time. And so we should just kind of, since we don't feel like we have a really super strong edge on the informed trading aspect, that it's probably a little bit better for me to take a seat back to some extent. And so you do that, and then you have this big up move. Okay, well, they're gonna buy. Buyer's gonna buy. Trader's gonna trade. Is BTC affecting the broader market? I don't know. Well, my opinion right now is that Bitcoin was affected while the rest of the market was going down, because they were being affected by the same thing and not necessarily because Bitcoin was dragging down the broader market. They've both benefited from unprecedented amounts of liquidity being injected into the system by both the Federal Reserve and and Congress. So a lot of that excess money, the problem that they've got, man, you get me on another rant. The problem that you've got is that you've given people all of this money and they don't have anywhere productive to put it. It's like they was like, oh, go buy stuff. Okay, but some people that were doing okay want to like invest and put the money to like an effective use. Where's the effective use for your money? Well, everybody put it into the stocks. Stocks are overbought. Can you really buy them and like make a ton of money over 30 years? I don't know. Kind of some of the metrics suggest that growth in stocks is going to be constrained now because we're too high. So where do they go? They're gambling it. They're putting it into whatever it is that's moving up, which is Bitcoin. And I think that that's why Bitcoin was moving up. And because the amount of stimulus is decreasing, doesn't look like, I'm at least not very confident that Congress is going to be able to get an infrastructure bill through. And even if they do, I'm not confident that it will be a very effective infrastructure bill. And the amount of liquidity that the Treasury has been putting out there is decreased. So the market's kind of like things are priced in. They go down, and so Bitcoin goes down with it too, because risk appetite is just subsiding. Now, the thing is that they had a pretty unreal crash yesterday, but they did not do the things that I was looking for that I would see in a full crash, which would include plummeting far below 35K and destroying MSTR and Michael Saylor and all that sort of stuff. They're kind of like, so the big guys that pumped it up are kind of like still break even. So Can they pump it back up again? Well, maybe with the tether thing, but maybe they kind of recover for a week and then the New York Attorney General comes out again and says, hey, it's over. Game's over. Then it really crashes. Who knows? I don't know. Those are kind of the scenarios I'm looking at, but it's like we're in a state. We have a certain probability of knowing what kind of state we're in. And then based on the state that we're in, we have certain probabilities of moving into other states. And which one it goes into, though, is there's a lot of randomness involved in it. If it's a crash, it's way slower than the one that happened in 17. I'm not sure about that one, YouTube Finance. I remember it taking quite some time. There was that one day where it really was like a really bad, but it was, first of all, it started much like this, where there was kind of a top and there'd been a couple of weeks had gone by before things really fell down. And even then, the full like 85% decline or whatever, it still happened over the course of like 3 days, I think. So, and there was at one point a pretty strong rebound before they settled out at 6,000. So Sailor says no one's buying gold and crypto is digital gold. I feel he's full of crap. Well, there certainly has been something too that gold hasn't been performing as well as the gold bulls want it to. And then all of a sudden when cryptocurrencies were crashing, gold was like the only thing that was kind of marginally up. Even though at the time that it was crashing, everything moved down. Hasn't broken any historical lows. I don't think anyone is thinking a major crash right now. The market needs a black swan on off. Well, there wasn't it wasn't like that in 2017 either, though, right? Like the thing is the black swans, if you want to call them that in cryptocurrency. I wouldn't really call it black swan. No. There was no black swan in 2017. Everything that happened in 2017 was almost exactly the way that I had predicted. It was a little scary how predictable it was. Okay. And I'm not saying that that means that my model is just, my model is amazing, but I don't think that because it followed it so closely that proves anything about the model. I think that maybe it was just luck, right? But what happens is when it moves down, it exposes all the skeletons, right? And so that's when you saw I can't even remember what it was called now. That coin that everybody knew was like a straight up scam, but they were still buying it and making money off of it and everything. And BitConnect. And then BitConnect fell apart and all these other things. Someone needs to throw a swan at Powell like the shoe did to Bush. Don't do that. Oh, did we have another little push up? Okay, yeah. The treasuries are still kind of looks with a slight bullish tilt. It did flatten back down though, so I guess I could re-equalize it again. So yeah, so that's the thing is that's what kind of was getting at though, is that this decline, because it gets back to where Elon Musk and Michael Saylor got in and it didn't push much lower, didn't really expose the skeletons, right? What I want to see is Michael Saylor is down, a good $20,000 in price. And feeling the pain, and his stock is getting squeezed, and just, not squeezed, crushed, just getting absolutely crushed. That's what I was kind of seeing as the full thing. I feel like that this last move, it was a little bit too much all at once. It was a 50%. You kind of need to have a recovery, not make a new high, and then you start to get a big decline like that, and that's when everybody gives up and you get the 80% crash, right? Big problem with crypto is people are trading it off blockchain. It is. And it's a big issue for my model, right? Like the issue is that how high Bitcoin goes seems to be entirely dependent on, well, actually not entirely dependent. It should be. It should be that it's entirely dependent on how many people want to buy it. But we also know that Tether's out there, so it's not so simple. Well, you gotta remember, like I want something. Oh, it's about time for me to get going. Maybe I shouldn't get into that. I had a conversation with somebody on Twitter about, gold versus Bitcoin, because Bitcoin wasn't working very well as an inflationary hedge, but nothing was working as an inflation hedge. But they were saying, well, yeah, but it's not like gold. Like gold has actual real value. And I'm like, actually, like guys, like it's only worth as much as it is because y'all want it. There's, like what is really is value, right? Because to me, I bought something and I can make money on the price of it going up and down. That's not like necessarily, I guess there's some value in that. But the thing that we learn is that price movements are very difficult to predict. And so that's kind of like a pretty sketchy thesis to buy something off of, right? You really need to be able to value something. So for gold, I can look at what does it cost to mine it and how many people actually need it and what are they using it for and things like that, right? And I can do cross comparisons to other similar things. Can you do that in gold? Yeah, but like honestly, if we only looked at the people that like use gold in manufacturing, price wouldn't be as high as it is now, right? Nah, it's because of speculation. So I'm not going to come in and say a asset has real true value when the primary value of it is speculative in nature, right? I want to know what things are worth, and I want to know why things are worth what they're worth. How do you come to that number? How do you come to that number in Bitcoin? Well, I say the way that you come to that number in Bitcoin is you look at how much money is being transacted compared to the number of tokens out there. And that should tell you what it's worth. But it's higher than that right now. And I think it's because Tether's printing money. That's my theory. Maybe the model is just wrong. I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, today the cryptocurrency looks good, but you remember that you get like the dead cat bounce sort of a thing. Maybe everything that we're seeing today is just a dead cat bounce, and then tomorrow on Friday they'll just sell into the end of the week, and then, or maybe next Monday they'll come back out just like they did this week, and they want to sell again. I don't know. We're kind of in a crossroads where there aren't any cars there right now. That time of year gets hard. Gets hard for me, at least. Hopefully we can find some opportunities with arbitrage. I'm a little concerned though that in the summer this game will just get harder, so. Okay guys, I gotta get going. I will see you tomorrow. Oh, what should we name the stream? We lost win. To remind me. I'm going to say insane market. Insane bullish market recovery day. Day trading futures, that's what I'm going to call it. Okay, guys. See you tomorrow. Stay